We use whole numbers to count objects around us. 8 apples in a basket, 5 fingers on my hand, 24 crayons in a box. We use whole numbers to count whole objects. But to measure the world around us, things like time, distance, weight, volume, we use a different kind of number. Numbers that lie at specific points on or in between the whole numbers. For example, if I want to express a distance that's greater than 1 mile, but less than 2 miles, or a weight of an apple greater than 50 grams, but less than 51 grams, we use decimals to express these types of numbers. So if I look at my number line, for example, in between the whole numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, so my whole numbers on the number line, the numbers that lie in between these whole numbers are expressed using decimals. So for example, the number 1.5 is going to lie in between 1 and 2. Or the number 3.62 lies in between my 3 and my 4. With decimals, the space between two whole numbers is divided into tenths. So let's start by looking between our two whole numbers, 2 and 3. We can take the space in between these two whole numbers and divide them into 10 evenly divided spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've now got the space between my 2 and 3 divided into tenths. So this point here is 2 and 1/10, 2 and 2/10, 2 and 3/10, all the way up to 2 and 9/10, and then my whole number 3. So let's take a look at this specific point right here, 3 spaces to the right of 2. This point right here on my number line would be 2 and 3/10. If I'm going to write this now as a decimal, I write it like this. I put my whole number first, so my 2, then my decimal point, and then I simply write the number 3, 2.3. This position to the first place to the right of my decimal point represents my tenths place. So 2 and 3/10 is written as 2.3. To find the numbers in between the tenths, I can again divide this space between 2 of my tenths into 10 more evenly divided spaces. So let's zoom in here between our 2.3 and our 2.4. And we're going to look at what happens when we divide that space into 10 more evenly divided spaces. So now we're looking right in between our tenths, 2.3 and 2.4. And again, in between this space, we're going to divide into 10 evenly divided spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now each of these markings represents 1/100th. And so if I were to look, for example, at the point 3 spaces to the right of 2 and 3/10, right here, I'm now at 2 and 33/100ths. And to write that as a decimal, I would write 2, so I still keep my whole number here, and then I put my decimal point, and then to the right of the decimal, I put my 3, for my 2.3 that we talked about already, and then the next space here is the hundredths place. So I'm going to do another 3, and 2 and 33/100ths then can be written as a decimal 2.33. And then in between these hundredths, they can be divided again into 10 evenly divided spaces, and you'd be then pointing out your thousandths. And then thousandths can be divided into 10 thousandths and 10 thousandths into 100 thousandths, and so on forever. We can keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Each of the divisions of our tenths and hundredths and thousandths gets its own decimal place. So if I have my number, for example, this is my whole number here with my decimal, and then I've got all my decimal places after the decimal point, each of these places represents a different number. So this first one here is my ones place, and then my decimal point. And as we've talked about already, this first number here to the right of the decimal is my tenths place. The next one here is my hundredths place. The next one is going to be my 1,000th place. The next one here is my 10,000th place. The next one is my 100,000th place. And the next one over here, divisible again, is my 1,000,000th place. And we can keep on going on and on forever like this. Each position is 1/10 of the position before it. So if I have a number like 2.000003, for example, I would read this as 2 and 3 millionths. Most decimals can be written as fractions. So if I have, for example, the decimal 6.1, I can write that as a fraction, 6 and 1/10. What if I have a decimal like, for example, 64.125, and I want to write that as a fraction? Here's what I do. I keep my 64 as a whole number, but then I want to put my 1.2 or my 0.125 as a fraction. So what I do is I go over to my last decimal point, or I go over to the last number of my decimal, and I count over to see what position my last number is in. My 1 is in the 10th place, my 2 is in the 100ths place, and my 5 is in the 1,000ths place. And that will be the denominator of my fraction. So I come over here and I write 1,000 in the denominator. The numerator is just going to be this whole number, 125. So all the numbers to the right of the decimal point become my numerator. So 64.125, the decimal, can be written in the fraction equivalent 64 and 125 thousandths. Decimals allow us to accurately measure the world around us. The distance to the school may be 5.6 miles. A bottle may hold 12.2 ounces of water. A runner might finish a race in 15.225 seconds, just 0.005 seconds ahead of the person behind him. In the United States, a dollar can be divided into 100 pennies or 100 cents. So you can think of 1 penny or 1 cent as 1/100th of a dollar. So if you have, for example, $5.62, you can think of this as 5 and 62 hundredths dollars.